Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 5 of the Monday Q&A, so let's finish this up. First question. What is the reason that teens are not recommended to go on cuts, but instead bulk or recomp? Let me put it to you very simply. If you're fat and obese, and I don't mean bodybuilder fat, I mean medically fat, to where your medical doctor says you need to lose 20 pounds for your health. Because you don't have a six-pack doesn't make you obese. So let's set these aside right now. Let's not confuse medical with bodybuilder, because bodybuilding is not fucking healthy. Now, that being said, if you are not obese, you don't need to be cutting as a teen. And it's counterproductive and harmful. If you're obese, you need to cut for your health, and don't worry about the other effects, because the long-term health effects of being obese for your whole life are going to be far worse than any negatives you will suffer from harming your development. If you're not obese and you are cutting or in a calorie deficit, you are setting yourself up, depending on how severe it is, and it can vary from person to person as to how much damage you can do. You're depriving your body of nutrients and calories when it is in a growing phase. Your bones are still growing, your muscles are still growing, your organs are still growing, your testicles are still growing, and if you are not providing your body with the nutrients that it needs to grow, which means a small calorie surplus, you should be gaining weight every few months as a teenager. That's assuming you're gaining no fat. If you're gaining no body fat, you will be gaining weight continually at a slow rate as a teenager, because your bones, your muscles, your organs are growing even without gaining body fat. You require a calorie surplus to do that. You cannot gain weight at maintenance. So if you're supplying your body with everything it needs, you're going to be generally at a very, very small calorie surplus. You're a growing teen, and if you're not providing those materials, you may shortchange yourself in your overall development. Your testicles might not properly develop. Your bones might not get as dense and hold as much material as you would want them to, which could cost you a very, very small amount of height. It could cost you in the long term of just less bone health as you get older. So you're actually setting yourself up for potential harm in the long term, at least minor, in some cases major, but generally minor health effects. And I'll give you a worst case scenario. This is someone I personally knew. It was my ex-sister-in-law from my first marriage. She had been a high school wrestler. She competed in a lighter weight class, and she oftentimes starved herself down to stay within her weight class as a growing teenage girl, and she was 16. And when she was 16, she spent basically an entire year at very restricted calories and doing lots of conditioning work so that she could maintain a weight class. And she was in a weight class that was very lightweight for her height, and for that whole year she maintained it at 16. So she had a full year of strict dieting harming her development. It affected her uterus and ovaries. And so then when I knew her later as a result of that, and her doctor had told her that that is what caused it, that she went over a year without having a period. It's from 16 to 17, and as a result of that, she had 2 periods every month, which means every 2 weeks she had a period. And this had been happening for over 2 years straight. And every time she had one, she had such intense cramps that she had to schedule days off work because she could barely walk. And that was the side effect she suffered from her disordered eating, basically from dieting and cutting, slow cutting and maintaining a low body weight for an entire year. She suffered that effect for years as an adult as a result of it. And for men, there are other potential consequences to your reproductive system. Just like she had issues with hers, you might have issues with yours. Your testicles might not work correctly. You could, worst case, you could have problems with producing testosterone and need to be on TRT in your early 20s, or you could have a low sperm count and not father children. It's not a good idea to starve yourself, and that's what dieting and cutting is starving yourself as a teenager when you're growing, and that's potential consequences. All right, next question. Rotator cuff pain from elbow flaring after bench press, and specifically overhead press. Well, that's why I repeat this stuff, and I have form videos, and I hammer this stuff, and I beat it like a dead horse, because I don't want any of my subscribers to ever be in this situation. Now that you're in this situation, well, you're basically fucked. Best of luck to you. And I hate to be mean, but that's why so many of us say this, is because once you start having this and you damage your rotator cuffs from the excessive flaring on your pressing, there may be no coming back. The damage is done. What do you want anyone to do? So what I would recommend to you is that your best case to sort this out is to immediately go see a physical therapist. You need to get the damage assessed and get it rehabilitated. The longer you wait to do that, the higher of a chance that you're going to have a permanent, lifelong injury and possible scar tissue and things in your rotator cuff that is going to impede you for the rest of your life. That is why I beat on this stuff like a dead horse, and people go, yeah, Jason, we get it. Well, no, people don't get it because you're still getting this. And it's the same with you guys doing your dumbbell stuff with those elbows flared out and using the wrong bar path. This is a consequence. You get damaged rotator cuffs. And again, once it happens, the damage is done. You might be able to fix it with surgery. You might be able to fix it through rehabilitation, but I wouldn't count on it. Sometimes, and very oftentimes, this type of damage is permanent. But the best thing you can do is to go in and get it rehabilitated right now, this week. The longer you wait, the higher the probability that you will build up scar tissue that will permanently restrict your training and your mobility in your shoulders until the day you're dead. So the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be potentially. So go in and see a physical therapist now. That's the only advice I can give you. All right, last question of the week. What are some of the biggest mistakes teens make when bodybuilding or just lifting and dieting in general? I don't recommend that teens bodybuild. And to me, bodybuilding means competing in bodybuilding. To me, powerlifting means competing in powerlifting. To me, weightlifting means competing in Olympic lifting. I don't consider anyone to be doing any of those as non-competitive. If you don't compete in anything, you are a recreational lifter. And there's nothing wrong with being a recreational lifter. Some people with the most impressive physiques out there are recreational lifters. Nothing wrong with it. Chris Jones, recreational lifter, looks fucking fantastic. Not a bodybuilder because he never done a bodybuilding show. But dude looks fucking fantastic. So it's not a bad thing. Don't think I'm insulting anyone when I say you're a recreational lifter. But you are. If you don't compete, you're recreational. Now with that clear, the biggest mistakes I see teens do: not getting on a structured program, following an unstructured program. They spend excessive amounts of time in the gym, excessive amounts of time doing just tons of fluff and pump work that may not be giving them as good of results as they want. Bad technique, not really spending the time to learn the lifts correctly, letting their ego get the best of them and then getting a higher rate of injury, of just focusing on showing off and letting their ego get the best of them rather than spending the time to learn these lifts correctly and to master all of the basic lifts before they try to push the weights to the max. And in general, just sacrificing things like range of motion and technique to flop more weight around. Next up is going to be oftentimes just simply not eating enough food. Teens forget that teens generally have a much higher metabolic rate than us older folks. You guys are young, your bodies are growing, they need calories and nutrients. So I see a lot of teens who don't get enough food in, and a lot who don't get enough, say, fruits and vegetables and micronutrients in, and try to substitute for it with a multivitamin. It doesn't work. You're going to be better in the long run if you get those foods in. And I'm not telling you guys that you can't eat a bunch of junk food, because the truth is, most teens who are training hard and growing fast, you guys can get away with a lot of junk food without getting fat by comparison. Those of you who are athletic and active, you can throw in a lot of Pop-Tarts and be just fine. Just make sure that you're not sacrificing those micronutrient-rich foods to get there. I mean, eat whatever you guys need to get the calories in, because it goes back to that point of teens are not oftentimes getting enough calories to grow on. Well, throw in whatever you need to hit those calories. You do what you got to do. Just make sure that you're not sacrificing the good food at the same time, the stuff that you actually need for all your vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients. So those are usually the biggest mistake I see teens make. And I'm not saying every teen makes those. I've seen some teens out there who are the exception to the rule, who do everything right. And when they do everything right, it shows. You can tell. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. But let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go. Oh.